When I was 21, I graduated from university with my business degree and moved back to my parents' small dairy farm in the Aussie bush, where I sorted corn in a frozen food factory during the day and I worked at a local pub at night pouring beers. And I saved up enough money to buy some traveler's checks and bought myself a round the world ticket and a cheap, pretty uncomfortable backpack. And off I set around the world for a year, backpacking across the United States and then around Europe and then India and Thailand. And I remember when I got back home after a year, going back to the pub that I had worked in for 6 months and popping myself up at the bar and some of the locals looking at me going, "Have you been gone for a few weeks?" And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have been gone for a year. I have just done all these amazing things. And, one, I'd hardly been missed, obviously, but two, for them, it had just seemed like a few weeks. And for me, it had been just this extraordinary year, packed full of adventures and sometimes misadventures, but certainly many, many experiences that had taught me a lot about the world and about myself and about life. And yet it had also been obviously kind of uncomfortable. And a lot of people said to me, "Oh, I wish I could do that." And sure, there are times in life when going backpacking around the world, i.e. in a pandemic, maybe isn't the easiest thing to do. And there's actual barriers where we literally, we can't go places. But so often we don't do the very things that we could do because they're just intimidating and they're scary and they're uncomfortable. A lot of people I've spoken to recently are at decision points in their lives. They're not sure whether to go back to the office and to the life that they were living before this pandemic. They're not sure whether to change jobs or careers or to move. And maybe you're in a decision point yourself right now, wondering, well, what's next? What am I doing with this in this next chapter as we start to look toward life post this pandemic? And I get it, in different countries of the world, they're still very much in the middle of it. But wherever you are right now, I encourage you to challenge your own assessments. If you find yourself erring towards sticking with the safety and the security of the status quo, that's not to say there's anything wrong with doing more of what you've been doing. If that is meaningful to you and it's lighting you up and you're thriving, awesome. But if you're not, then don't discount the cost of inaction. Don't keep doing more of what's already not working in the hope that it eventually will. Delay grows increasingly expensive. And at the end of life, it's the risks that we don't take. It's the chances we didn't take. It's the times we didn't choose courage over comfort that people tend to regret the most. And even when you try something and it doesn't land the way you want, you still learn, you still grow, you still become more of the person that you have it within you to become because you've been faced with situations you would never have faced otherwise. And I know myself over the years, having moved around the world a lot now, over the last, 25, 30 years and lived in different places, and very happy to be back in the United States now too. But I know myself, it's the experiences that have tested me the most, that have also taught me the most. And some of them I've actively chosen to get on a plane and cross the Sahara Desert or to move to Papua New Guinea in my 20s. And some of them I haven't chosen. They've sort of been thrust upon me and I wouldn't have chosen them. But I've learned my own. They've introduced me to my strengths, and I've discovered resilience and resourcefulness and courage and grace and grit that I wouldn't have had I not ever put myself out there. And so for you, wherever you are right now in your journey through life, I just invite you to reset on a vision that inspires you, even if it scares you a little bit. And if you're kind of, oh, do I make this change, take this chance, to lean toward risk? Because while our brains tend to focus more on what could go wrong than on what might go right, nothing worthwhile is achieved with a guarantee of success. And in a culture today that is bombarding us with reasons to play it safe and to be sensible, you've got to really be careful that you're being sensible isn't an act of self-sabotage and it's not keeping you from taking the very actions, from engaging in the conversations, from taking the chances that would ultimately lead you towards a far more rewarding and fulfilling life, not just one that enriches you and lifts you up, but that actually enriches and lifts up everyone around you. All right, be brave, take the chance.